What is up, guys? In this video, I'm gonna show you a 90s house track idea that I made using two really cool plugins. This is what I created with the plugins. Ready to see what they can do? Let's jump straight into FL Studio. Okay, so the two plugins that I have been used for this 90s house track idea are the Orb Hit Plus and the Fem Roto, all from Meat Beats. I did a previous video with the Orb Hits and I totally forgot that I had the plugins. Then I wanted to dive back into these really cool plugins. They just have so many really cool sounds to them. So I believe that Danny that made these plugins used a lot of samples for these plugins. So they are sample based. So the Orb Hits has like a lot of 90s rave sounds, 80s inspired sounds, also like analog recorded gear. The really cool thing about these plugins are that you just have like a really cool amount of presets and sounds that just instantly inspires you to create like this more gritty, textureful 90s house inspired music. And you only have a limited option of knobs to basically twist and turn. So you have like a tag release for the envelope, you have some filtering, just a low pass filter. You have like auto panning with some speed. You have a chorus with speed as well of the LFO. Then you have like a reverb size and like reverb amount, and then a volume. I think this is really cool because sometimes when I'm producing, I will just straight want to get to the sounds and not spend so much time on fiddling with sound design. Sometimes I want to do that, but also sometimes I just want to jam on my MIDI keyboard and just create some tunes, basically. So I just made like this 90s house track idea, and let me just take you through each of the different elements. So if we start with the top, I have this E-piano melody up here. Like really cool and mellow, and like this like 80s inspired sound. This is just played by hand on my MIDI keyboard, and then I went back into FL Studio and just quantized it. And I like to do that sometimes because then I just jam with the flow and just press some keys, and suddenly I have a melody that just works. It's just a trial and error thing. So it's the soft mute. I think it's under, let me see where it is, under electric. And I think I didn't even like twisted anything. I just turned up the volume basically, and it just sounded really cool. So then I moved on to this like sus pad here. Okay, and this one is pretty cool. Let's just open that up. So that's coming from the Orb Hits, and it has like some really weird textureful sample sounds into it. And I think I turned up the release, so I got like a more tail to the sound, and I low pass it a little bit with the filter. Also add a little bit of reverb. And this one is just because the tune is in D sharp minor. I just wanted to add like this sustained note where it can just sit in the background, just creating some textures. And let me just see if I have added anything. Like I haven't added anything like processing wise. It's just being routed to an instrument bus. And let's just jump back into that piano melody thing up here. This one. I actually added some processing. I just forgot to tell you. I used the Fruity Delay 3 for some ping pong delay. Then I'm using parametric EQ just to remove any low end. And then this like limiter down here is just for sidechaining. Those two sounds together. Like it just has some really cool vibes in my opinion. I wanted to dive into some steps. And these are coming from the Orb Hit. This is where this plugin really come into hands, is that if you want to get that like rave sound, this is the plugin that you need. They're actually not that expensive. I can't remember if like, I think this is $25 US and the other one here is $10 US. I think it's a really fair price compared to what you get out of it. And if you want to support this channel, I've gotten an affiliate link from Meat Beats, and I've just put it into the description of this video. And if you want to purchase these plugins, you can just use my link, and then I get a small cut of the profit, and you support the channel. So thank you if you want to consider buying these plugins. Okay, enough promotion talk. I want to dive into this. So these stabs are chord based. So it's just a matter of finding something that just fits the vibe of your track. They are on the hits. There are so many cool rave hits that you can access here. And I think I added, let me just see, a little bit of filtering actually, just to low pass it a little bit, because I wanted a little bit more gritty sound to it. And let's see, processing wise, just also added a little bit of extra filtering and some reverb, just the fruity reverb too. And these stabs here are just doing some rhythmic stuff, playing together with the drums. This just makes sense. Really cool. Okay, so the next one is pretty interesting. It's like a Vox loop. It was a trial and error thing because I was just flicking through some of the presets, and then I found this one. And at start I thought it's a little bit too much over the edge, but by going a little bit low in the octaves, I got this. And then I turned up the auto panning and also the chorus, a little bit of the reverb. And then I routed this to mix a track in FL Studio. Then I added the decapitator from Soundtoys just to really crank up the drive, to really distort it. And then using the Fruity parametric EQ to move low end and also a little bit of the high end. And then I'm using the Shaper Box to really do some crazy panning from left to right with these patterns here. And also sidechaining, so it's docking accordingly to the kick drum. And then I added the Fruity Reverb 2 just to add a little bit of ambience to these box hits here. It makes it kind of mystical in a way, and I really love that. It's just something that I'm really out for, really textureful, rich sounds. I'm a sucker for that. So the next one is some E-piano chops. Sounds like this. And you know me, if you have listened to any of my music and watched some of the previous videos, I'm kind of a mellow guy. I love melodic stuff. And so I can't help myself if I get some really mellow E-pianos. And this is also from this Fem Roto. It's called Luminous. I think I just turned up the reverb basically. And it just has that 80s vibe, and I'm just totally down with it. So processing wise, because these are some choppy chords, I added a transient master with a little bit of extra attack and reduced the sustain a little bit because I want those short, stabby sounds. And then I added the Fruity delay bank just to add a ping pong delay, and then two really short delays that's panned to the right and to the left, so we get a little bit of stereo stuff happening. And also Fruity limiter for sidechaining. This is how it works. This without the delay. It just gives it a little bit more movement, in my opinion. So all together. Okay, we have some really cool soundscapes right now. I'm so hyped right now. Okay, so the next one is just some basic chords, just following those choppy ones that I just showed you previously. Really nice and mellow. And these are also coming from this Fem Roto, and it's called Tight Set, and it's on the stage. So it's kind of emulating a stage piano and adding some reverb and also a little bit more release because I wanted those tails to fill up these gaps over here. So let me see if I added any processing. I actually didn't. It was only the full limiter for some sidechaining. So let me just show you everything. Really cool, really cool. Okay, so we're soon done with all of the melodic components. I added like a chord step down here. Sounds like this. And this is coming from the ARP hits, and this is like one of these like really rave-inspired chord steps. I added a little bit of filtering, a little bit more of release, because I wanted this like really long tail, and also added more reverb. And I think processing-wise, I didn't add anything. I just routed to my instrument bus. Because these sounds are really cool on their own, and if it sounds good, I don't want to just add processing for the sake of it. The last one I added is this organ line down here, which is just like a B part of the drop. So I have this part over here, which is the A part, and then the B part to just switch things up a little bit. And this organ line sounds like this. And this was like, when I found this preset in ARP hits, I was just completely sold, and I knew that I wanted to do something with it. And the cool thing is that if you try to play around with the different octaves, you get some really cool textures. So I started up here, but by mistake, I hit these keys down here, and it just sounded a little bit more dark, more gritty, and I just added them in as like a rhythmic kind of thing, and it was just bouncing really cool. So let me just open up ARP hits. Yeah, and this is also like a chord step thing, and I think it's an organ, and I just added a little bit of filtering, basically not that much more. Then I added some processing in FL Studio, and then I added the Fruity Parametric EQ2. It's really hard to pronounce when I'm trying to speak fast. Removing low end and also high end to make room for stuff. And then I'm using the H delay stereo in an 8-dotted tempo. This is just a really cool delay. I use it too much, but it's just so good. And I love to play around with these filters down here, so you can like add a high pass to remove low end of the filters, of the delays, and you can also remove the upper frequency range of the delays. So we're kind of like tucking them into the back of the track, and then finishing this off with a Fruity limiter for some sidechaining. And together with all my other elements, sounds like this. It sounds a little bit weird in my opinion. It's not something that I'm used to doing, but I just got completely like drawn into this. Okay, so let's move on to the next part, and this is the bass line. This is like so fat and gritty. Of course, it's coming from the ARP hit. Just one of the presets. It's called Bass Analog 14. And what I liked about this sound was that it had like a lot of punch. And so basically I went into FL Studio and added the Neutron 3, my channel strip plugin, my faithful channel strip plugin. I added some excitement, some drive, tape saturation, yes, to the upper range of the sound. So that's pulling through those like transients that are really audible. So take a listen. So we get like this more like smack in your face, like really gritty, distorted punch. Then I'm using a transient shaper as well in here, just to boost the attacks a little bit so we get more punch. Just a little bit because I wanted this bass line to be almost like kind of like a bass tom, so kind of really rhythmic, playing around with the kick drum. And then for the equalizer, I'm just removing the upper range to make room for my drums and other stuff, because the energy of the bass lies down here. So that's what I want to pay attention to. And then I'm using a limiter just to squash it together a little bit, a Fruity limiter for sidechaining. That's basically it for the bass. And then I made this completely mono. So that's like the bass line. Then we can try to play this together with the kick drum. So it sounds like this. Really fat and gritty. This one down here is just my sidechain trigger for the Fruity limiter to trigger the sidechaining basically. Like for the kick drum, this is just one of my kick drums from my sample pack called Lomafier's Favorite Kicks Volume 1. and I just made the length of the kick drum a little bit shorter. This one, it had a little bit of a long tail, but I didn't want it to be too long, so I just opened it in Edison and just made it shorter. So let's just add like all of these like drum elements. I have my clap here, just some standard clap action, and then I have like this closed hi-hat, which is really driving the groove of this track. So the key here to really drive these grooves and rhythms are just placing the hits and the notes off the grid. You can see like it's just moved off the grid. It's not like entirely on the grid. Not all of the hits are. And also velocity is changing. And this just gives it like a really cool bounce and groove. And not to be promotional, but this is also from one of my sample packs. It's called UK Garage Drum Kit Volume 1. And in this drum kit, I have included some MIDI patterns with all of these grooves in it. So if you're interested in getting some more grooves to your tracks, you can definitely go and get those. They can be used for a lot of different genres as well, not only UK Garage. I just love to get more swingy in my drum programming. So the next one is just open hi-hats, just on the offbeat. And as you can see, velocity is changing a little bit, and also the panning, because I want this to move a little bit instead of just having it to sit playing the exact same volume in mono. I don't want to do that. I want to add some interest. Then I have these clap skips down here. Also just following the same method of putting stuff off the grid, using velocity changes and also some panning changes. And this is basically also just low pass, degraded clap. And then I added like this top loop over here. This is just top loop from Splice. And I introduced this in like the B part section just to add like some interest and some change. And I think in terms of processing, I just added a transient master just to reduce the sustain because I want those drums to be really like skippy and short to fit the vibe of my other drum elements. So down here I have like this sap thing going on. And this is actually coming from op hits. So it also have like a lot of SFXs that I think you should try out, that you can just program in. I think this just fits the vibe really well, that we get like this more industrial kind of vibe, mechanical vibe. There is like a cymbal crash, a cymbal transition, and then some cassette noise down here. So that's basically it for all of the elements. The only thing that I want to show you right now is just the different buses. So for the instrument bus, where all of like the yellow melodic components are being routed to, I use the Soothe 2 to remove like resonant frequencies. So these one basically, just to make it a little bit more pleasant to listen to. And then I added like a solid bus compressor. Just with a little bit of gain reduction. It's just to glue everything together. And neutron free to remove the low end, add a little bit of a boost to the high end with a Bandax high shelf, and a little bit of excitement like tape saturation to just make everything like the present of these melodic components to cut through the mix a little bit. And just like imager, also 9 imager, just to make sure that everything like in the mono, in the low end is in mono. And then I'm trying to like spread out the upper like frequencies a little bit more, so just get a little bit more like a stereo sound. So that's like the instrument bus. Then I have the drum bus, which is basically trying to do the same thing. Soothe 2 to remove like resonant peaks. There can be some in like, if you use 909 hi-hats, there can be like some resonant peaks that I definitely encourage you to try to remove or just turn down a little bit, because they can sound a little bit harsh when you just turn up everything with compressors, limiters, and all that stuff. And then the solid bus compressor to do the exact same as with the instrument bus, just to glue everything together. And then I'm using this tape machine plugin from Waves, I think you have seen it before in some of my videos. I just love like the warmth and grittiness it gives to my tracks, and especially my drums. I tend to turn up the saturation knob a little bit to crush the drums a little bit, just to give them a little bit more of coloring. This plugin is pretty cool. If you have the money for it, I definitely encourage you to try to get it. And then just finishing off with the neutron free, just to cut off any generated low end in drums, because that's not necessary. Because my kick drum is not being routed to the drum bus. It's just on its own or on like a low end bus together with the bass line. So that's basically it for this like small 90s house track idea. As I mentioned before in the beginning of the video, if you want to get your hands on these plugins from Meatbeats, I have included a link in the description down below, and it's an affiliate link, so I get a small commission if you intend on buying one of these plugins. So you're basically also supporting this channel and getting some really cool plugins in the meantime. So yeah, I definitely think you should try out these plugins. They're rather cheap and they have a lot of really cool sounds to them. So let's just listen to this like small 90s house track idea that I made with these plugins. Enjoy. Pretty wicked. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, it would mean so much to me if you would smash that like button or even subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss any future videos on the channel. I've also launched a Discord server for producers. It's a place where we can share our track ideas, get feedback, provide feedback. It's generally just a cool place to hang out and talk about music and stuff. And I really want you to get involved if you want to. You can join the Discord with the link in the description down below. If you want to support this channel even further, you can also go and check out some of my sample packs and preset packs on my web shop. The link is also in the description down below. So I hope to see you in the next video. Take care. Peace.